If you want to just start by introducing yourself for everyone and tell us like who you are, where you're from, and then just a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. And also, I've never done something like this before, so I'm totally honored. But my name's Hannah Feldman. I live in Morristown, New Jersey. It's North Jersey. And I'm a tour manager and a merchandise manager, but have also been done like concert promotions, been a booking agent, and helped co-run a nonprofit in music.
Can we talk more about your nonprofit, what it is, and like what you do? And I don't know if you helped start it, but if you did, kind of the process of like starting a nonprofit.
Yeah. So we're not registered as like a nonprofit with the government. That's a very expensive process that we were hoping to get to at some point, but then the pandemic happened. So, I mean, there's no live shows right now, so it doesn't even seem worth it. But anyway, it's called LEAD DIY. It stands for Lighting and Epilepsy Awareness Development in DIY Music. And we aim to educate artists, venues, and live music lovers about the effects of intense lighting on photosensitive audience members. We provide free signage to people who work in music to hang out shows depending on the intensity of the lighting. So we have green, yellow, and red sign. Green is there isn't dangerous or triggering lighting being used at this show. Yellow is a caution that the lighting may be triggering or dangerous for people who are photosensitive or have epilepsy at the show. And red is that it is not safe for people with lighting sensitivity or epilepsy to be in that room.
So, like, when did you guys started exactly?
It started in, oh my God, what year? I think like towards the end of 2018. Yeah. My friend Ellie Hart is epileptic. We've been friends for a long time, and we met like I think through Twitter or something. And once, well, many times we've talked about like how shows weren't accessible to them, or they would have to like leave the room while their favorite band, like the Front Bottoms, were playing, just like the lighting was too intense. So it was all Ellie basically. I was just like someone to like talk to. We were friends. And then at one point they wanted to go see The Incredibles 2 when that came out. And Disney had a warning saying that there was like, a lot of flashing and like basically like unsafe graphics for people with epilepsy, and they wouldn't give you like the timestamp or anything. So if you were lighting sensitive or like had epilepsy, then you wouldn't be able to go see the movie. And that was really disappointing to Ellie because they waited like 18 years to see The Incredibles 2. I do work in music, so what can I do here? So that's how Lead DIY started. It just started as like a part of their their blog, but it became like more popular and became its like own thing. And then it got busier, so I became a part of Lead DIY in a more official capacity. And I would like go over to Ellie's all the time. We would print and laminate and send out signs to musicians, venues, basically anyone who wanted them. We sent out the signs for free. And over the past like couple years, we did fundraising through like, we had a Venmo and everything, but we also did t-shirts and other merch, and even booked a couple benefit shows, as well as a benefit festival with 15 bands in summer 2019. So we were able to do a lot of fundraising through that and spread awareness by tabling at artist shows who support Lead DIY and feel that it's an important subject to shed light on. So we've tabled probably over 50 shows, and Ellie and I are both tour managers. So on some of our tours, we were even able to like have Lead DIY stuff out like at the merch table. And if anybody knows what like the Sad Summer festival is, we were able to be the local nonprofit for the Asbury Park date for the first year they did it, which I think was, I guess, not last summer, but the summer before. So yeah.
That's awesome. Continuing with lead DIY, do you have like some of the challenges that you guys face? As like, I know you just said like you guys printed and like laminated that all and sent them for free. Is there any other like challenges that kind of come with running
Sure.
that?
It costs a lot of money to run a nonprofit. So um, it can feel hard at times to be like, hey, we need money, like, and just like keep asking for it. But you have to come up with like creative ways to fundraise, which is something like really valuable that I learned how to do through Lead DIY. And another hard thing is talking to like lighting directors or just general contacts at venues who don't feel that it's an important topic and that you're trying to like be special when it's not really. I don't remember what the exact statistic is off the top of my head. I think it's something like, 1 in 5 people suffer from some sort of lighting sensitivity. So it's not just like, oh, 1 out of every 1,000 person like is affected by this. Like it affects more than we really know. So to be dismissed like that could be very frustrating and discouraging, and something I've dealt with personally too.
Awesome. I mean, not awesome that that happens, but like it's good that your work. Sorry, that awesome was very misplaced. But
No, it's
I just
okay.
like
I get it.
I really like what you guys do with lead. So moving away from that, you also run the Reverie. Is it Reverie Productions? Is that how you say it? So can you talk more about like that and what you guys do or what you do with that?
Yeah, I started booking shows towards the end of 2018 when I was still in college, and I wanted to get in. I knew I wanted to get involved in live music. I just didn't know how exactly, and I always like loved local artists, and I wanted to help them. So between my passion for event planning and loving live music, I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. So I credit my friend May Krell, who little self promo for them, has a new single coming out this Friday. May was the like very first artist who let me book them a show, even though I did not know what I was doing at all. But they were like, okay, I always want to play more shows. Let's do this. So the first like 2 or 3 shows I just like booked as my own self, but soon I found it's very important to have a brand name. So Reverie comes from the name of a song by The Maine, if anyone knows that band, and I really like that word, and so I called it Reverie Productions, and since then, I don't know, I guess it's been like 3 years now, and I have booked many like local dates of tours. I booked several tours for bands, and even did a live stream series at the beginning of the pandemic when I thought it was going to be shorter. So I was committed to 2 live streams a week for the remainder of the pandemic, but that turned out to be a really difficult task to take on because now it's been a year. But that project went for a few months as well. So it's been really interesting working with the dynamics of like the pandemic and seeing how you can continue to be a concert promoter when you can't be there in person.
Yeah, I definitely understand. I feel like no one expected it to last a year, so a lot of people did like, oh, we'll do this for the rest of the pandemic, and then 1 year later, and a lot of that doesn't happen. So obviously, pre-pandemic, you did tour management. You talked about that a little bit earlier, but do you want to go into more about like that and like what it entails for tour management for you and like kind of like the scale of tours you've done?
So I've pretty much done like club size tours and smaller. Still early in my career, but I'm really happy with everything that I've done so far. Being a tour manager entails the easiest way to put it is like being a babysitter for a band. Um, but it's much more complicated than that, of course. You work with travel and lodging, logistics, managing expenses, accounting, advancing, and settlement for all the shows. You have to be really good at planning and on top of the details. But you also need to be comfortable with the fact that things don't always work out the way you plan them. And So you got to go with the flow and be willing to change the schedule that you prepared in the first place, because it's hard when you're on the road. Not everything is going to work out timing wise, and you might, like, bust a tire or have an issue with some other issue with your van, which has happened to me so many times. And then yeah, you got to change the schedule and still get to the show on time, because then if you're not getting to the show, then what's the point of being on tour, huh?
So you also are a merch manager. Can you walk us through like a day in the life of like what you do when you're the merch manager?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I love being a merch manager so much. Generally, the band already has the merch. So when I get there, I take inventory of all the merch, write down all the sizes and the quantities, and I have the spreadsheet that I use. And then every time we get to the show, I have like a really specific layout to make the merch table look aesthetically pleasing. Um, I count in every all of the inventory before the show starts, even if I just did it yesterday, because sometimes on the road, merch gets lost along the way, or band members give out T-shirts to their friends or whatever. So I have to know like what the sizes that I'm dealing with are. And then during the show, usually the band has like a cash box, or I have a fanny pack. Um, and so I'll have to change there and try to keep a tally of what I've sold throughout using the Square app, which is um, really good for tracking merchandise sales. You can like make a post, or not a post, but like, I don't know, you can put each product in there within the size range that you have too. So like small, medium, large, everything like that. And even if somebody purchases through cash, you can still track your sales through the app, and also have the credit card reader on Square. You plug it into your little phone jack. But even if you do all of that, it's not guaranteed to be perfect. So at the end of the night, you need to count out your merchandise again. So it's really like a lot of like unpacking boxes, counting very often, and then packing boxes again and counting again. That's the simplest way to say it. But it's very rewarding because you get to help people bring a little memento of hopefully the wonderful evening that they had home with them, as well as they get to support the band. It's really expensive to tour, and merchandise sales are the main income stream for touring bands.
Personally, I've watched merch people, and like I would find that very stressful. Do you ever get stressed when like there's long lines and like lots of people trying to talk to you at once? Because like I know personally I would find that like a little overwhelming.
I mean, yeah. So one of the last tours that I did before the pandemic ended was a metal tour, and we were in California at like a sold out show for the Fall of Troy, which like I wasn't really a metalhead or anything, but I learned that they were like a very popular band at the time, and they were doing like a reunion show. So we were one of the openers, but we also hadn't played a show in like, we were like a popular band from like 20 years ago. So returning, like all of the people who were like 35 and older were like, oh my God, I love this band when I was a teenager. So like there were really long lines for our merch table. That was the number 12 looks like you. That's the band. And there wasn't a lot of space behind, so I would have to like run back and forth between the trailer getting different sizes, and like it was dark, and just there wasn't a lot of space for the boxes in general. But made it through, sold a lot of merch, made us actually make money on the tour. And yeah, it was super rewarding, but it can be stressful at times when there's a line. But you just got to remember, everyone's human. They don't expect you to be a robot. You're just a person. So you're doing your best.
Kind of moving away from specific questions, but like, what's your favorite part of working in the music industry? I don't know if you want maybe a specific job that you do, or even just like a specific aspect of the music industry.
My favorite job in the music industry by far has been being a tour manager and merchandise manager. I love getting to go to a live show every night. I love watching the band's confidence grow each night on tour, like seeing how they change it up. I love getting to know the other bands on the tour package and seeing their musicality shine as well. It's just a really cool creative space to be a part of for a few weeks. It's like a little music bubble, traveling across the country, and definitely like a once in a lifetime experience that I'm grateful for every time I've been able to do it. Every time.
How did you first get like involved in the music industry? What was your like entrance into it?
Okay, so this is a question I actually get a lot of, and people are like, "Well, I want to go on the road. I want to start touring. Like, how do I get someone to hire me?" You have to show that you are like a valuable asset to bands when it's not about like having a traveling opportunity. You have to show that you really do care about what they do, and I think the best way to do that is to uh, like grow strong roots in your local music scene. I was really involved in my local music scene in New York City when I lived there, and have been involved in the New Jersey music scene for years now. Just like always supporting bands around here the best that I can, like going to their shows, buying their merch, listening to their music. But also, you know, we've become friends. So I would be like, yeah, I want to work in music. And we developed like most of the relationships I've developed that were like, enabled me to get out on the road. Were like booking these bands like as a concert promoter in New Jersey or New York, or helping them book a tour. If you do a favor for someone and they really like their work, and, or they really like your work and you help them out, then they're going to be more inclined to like, you know, bring you out on the road because they've seen what you can do.
Kind of answered my next question, but do you have any other advice for like our students?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So for now, seems like everybody is drawn to this app called Clubhouse, which I haven't really gotten into, but it's a good way. It's like, you know, podcasts for creatives, and you can just enter a room and like listen to people talk about a certain subject. I haven't really done it, but I'm on it, and I'll check it out at some point. But that seems to really be the way that people are networking these days. There's also a great Facebook group called for women and non-binary people. It seems like that's sort of like the audience that we have here, called Girls Behind the Rock Show. So there's an awesome networking group that really like helped me answer all my questions when I first get started. There's a lot of touring veterans in there, and just like, you know, general music industry professionals who have been working in music for a long time, and who are always willing to like lend a helping hand and give advice. And there's a lot of new people in there as well. So yeah, networking with people who are at the same level as you, as well as maybe like a little ahead in the game, is great. So I know Facebook isn't much good for anything else besides networking in that group. And as for shows and non-pandemic time, like developing relationships with people, a professor once told me every show that you go to, you should try to develop a like professional relationship, and network, and just like even if that's like talking to anyone who works in the venue, and you could be like, oh hey, like I'm a music industry student too, like that's what you guys could say, and like maybe talk about what you do in school or internships that you've done, or ask them about their job. Like everyone is there because they love music and want to keep talking about it. Why else would you work in music if you didn't like it? So those are like genuine relationships that you can foster, and feel like I've done that. Try to keep relationships with people that I've met over the years, in different like music settings.
Awesome, thank you. My last question is another advice question. Just any like general advice about working in the music industry, and like maybe like skills and like things you need, and then more specifically as like a young woman in the industry, like you said, it looks like a lot of our audience. I know our program is kind of packed with women in the music side. So just some advice maybe you have as being a woman in the industry.
Being a young woman in the music industry is definitely an interesting experience. I'm sure everyone here has uh, been pegged for like, oh, you're just a fangirl, like whatever, not taking you seriously because you're young and you're a woman. And that's just not okay to me. Like, fangirls, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think it's a really good thing to be a fan. I think it's sad when people in music lose their passion for bands and they try to pretend like they're too cool to go to shows that they're not working, because there's just no point. So yeah, I've been on tours and mistaken as like someone who was just like attending the show and like trying to hang around and like, you know, talk to the band. Like, that's really insulting. So the best advice I have for that is, hopefully the industry starts to recognize sexism and ageism, is just like, you know, even if you don't feel confident, try to act confident. That will take you far. Projecting confidence, and just try to learn as much as you can about what sector of music you're interested in. Like, take advantage of your resources. And generally, I think that people will help you when you show like genuine passion for what you're doing, because like we're all here. I know I keep saying this, but we're all here for a reason. We love music so much. So like, you know, bonding over your favorite artists with them, or a show that you've been to or whatever, like, is a really good way to I guess like challenge stereotypes, because we're all the same in that
I
way.
think that's all the questions I have. So I'm going to open it up. If anyone has any questions, you can either type it in the chat or you can speak up. I can read them. Oh, we did have Maddie, but she has left. But if you wanted to talk a little bit more about Sad Summer Festival and what you guys did there at tabling there.
Yeah. Oh, well, hopefully she can see the recording after this. But yeah, Sad Summer Festival was the nonprofits were coordinated by someone who works for 8123, which is the Maine's like record label, if anyone doesn't know. And I sort of, when the Maine was releasing their most recent album, You Are Okay, like she was on the like she was there in person on the promo team. So like as a fan, I went to some of like the Maine's events to promote the new record, and I told her about Lead DIY. I told her that we'd be sending an email. So I think just like getting some of that FaceTime was helpful. And we also had an in with some of the bands on that tour, like Mom Jeans. We've worked with them before, and we're actually one of the very first bands to support Lead DIY. So through all of like those connections, we were able to like establish us being like the New Jersey nonprofit for Sad Summer Festival that year. And yeah, it was a lot of planning. And a really cool experience to have, to be like, hey, like I'm surrounded by all these bands that I love, and I get to also promote a cause that's really important to me. And I think that like a lot of people who attended like the festival were able to learn about Lead. So I appreciate like all that promotion and visibility that we got. We were also, you know, able to raise some funds through like selling our t-shirts, and I think we did a raffle too, if I remember correctly. It's been kind of a long time now, feels like yesterday at the same time. But yeah, the only challenge with that is like they want it, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity that we had, but at the same time they didn't, although they were saying that they were supporting a cause to make shows safer for people with lighting sensitivity and epilepsy, they didn't really change any of their actions around lighting that they had at the show. So our founder Ellie couldn't watch some of the sets because of the lighting, but you know, like at least we were able to put up like the signage. But still, it was very frustrating that they wouldn't change their behavior. Although in words they were saying that they supported us, they were not making it like a safe environment for literally the founder of the organization that they said they were supporting. But everything else was a really good experience there, and I would totally do it again if I had the chance to.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on and talking to us and sharing your amazing experiences and your knowledge with Pioneer Records and Point Park. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And just like if anyone finds like that they have questions later on, feel free to email me, hannah@leaddiy.org. I'm always down to give advice or talk about All Time Low or any other band that's in that realm. So yeah, really thank you for having me. This was a great opportunity, and I hope that I was helpful in some way.
Yeah, I think you were really helpful. Thank you so much.